This is Let's Talk Business Radio with your host, Marc Ebinger. Now, here's Marc.
All right, first up on the show is Michael Goldberg, the president of Efficient Fleets, that specializes in GPS tracking cameras for commercial vehicles. Michael, it's always good to have you here in the studio.
Absolutely.
So today we're going to talk about like multi-camera setups, but really what are some of the main reasons, and this is kind of an obvious answer for me because I know you've been on the show a few times, but why businesses should have GPS tracking cameras on their commercial vehicles?
Absolutely. Well, it's very important for main reason for liability. God forbid there's an accident, they can have video that would prove their case. And it's also great for accountability. Just making sure the drivers are always doing what they're supposed to be doing. Proof of service, they show up to the job site, the actual vehicle's there, and they were not just sitting in the car doing nothing. So that's the other main reasons.
Yeah, so could you give like some industry, if not client names, but maybe some industry type clients that you're already using or
Absolutely.
servicing?
Oh, it runs a variety of industries. Waste management's a big one. Gravel hauling companies. Anybody with a large truck. The larger the truck, the bigger the target they are. So these can range from delivery companies to trucking companies. Driving vehicles across the country. Fuel hauling companies. Just a variety. Plumbers, electricians use them as well. There's a lot of vehicles that go around. Roofing companies. Just a variety that need anyone with a vehicle on the road has a potential liability. So they'll have a good case to use one.
Now, when it comes to your multi-camera setup, what are we talking about?
So in the multi-camera setup, we're really talking about a camera that, of course, faces the road in front, probably facing the driver, but also on the outside of the vehicle as well, sometimes on the sides of the truck, in the rear of the truck, to kind of capture a 360-degree view of what's going on out there.
Okay, and it's recording everything in the cloud somewhere, right? Is that...
It depends, but most of our equipment, everything's recorded onto an SD card, and then video clips are uploaded into the cloud based on events. So, for example, a hard brake event would trigger an event that would upload that video clip into the cloud where you could review it later.
Okay, and a hard brake event would be just...
Yeah, just someone who hits the brakes really hard, and that would create, a huge G-force or shaking of the actual camera, which would trigger a hard brake event. So we're not tied into the brakes directly, but we just could feel the shaking of the vehicle. But it could also be for a shock event. If they hit something on impact, that would also trigger a video clip to be uploaded into the cloud so you can review it later.
Okay, and so the video part seems pretty obvious to me, and I've done some of the videos. Our team does that for you now, where
Absolutely.
we've got short video clips showing, an incident happening where you show both the driver and the road going. So that makes sense to me. But what's the idea behind the GPS part of it? Why is that important?
So then you can, of course, know where the incident occurred. The GPS, so these cameras are what we call GPS tracking cameras. So they got a tracker inside of it and a camera. And that way you'll know where the truck is when the accident or incident occurred. But then you can also take advantage of the full GPS tracking capability. You can track where the vehicle is at right now, where it was, how many stops it made, what time they got there, what time they left, all of those things along with the video. And then if you're doing a proof of service, when you'll know that you were at the customer location with a video, and you can prove both.
What about speed? Is speed tracked on that too?
Yep, absolutely. Speed. And so you can tell if you're going above the posted speed limit or just your speed for every location.
Okay, and then is there any kind of monitor inside the vehicle for the commercial driver?
It's an option. Yeah, you can actually add a touch screen or a LCD screen into the cab of the truck, which will allow you to turn, for example, a rear camera into a reverse camera. So you have a camera in the back of the truck. When he goes into reverse, the screen shows the back of the vehicle for safer reversing.
Can you combine any of the cameras for a wider angle?
As such, like to have just a wider angle with like two cameras. Not typically. Usually we'll have a camera with wider angles, so we can choose some different ones, but we can't really tie them together that way. So.
I know on a vehicle that we just bought, it's a Buick, and it's got the rearview mirror uses all the cameras in the back, and it creates this massively wide rear or like rear view. I mean, whatever's behind your image, right?
Yeah, we can do something similar in that we can display all the cameras at once, but it doesn't really tie them together. That might be coming in the future, but you can do them all at once. The one drawback, of course, at least on a commercial side, is it might be distracting. So we try to avoid some of the distractions, but we can customize them quite a bit.
So commercial driver's licenses are kind of no joke, right? I mean, it's somebody's livelihood. So when you start installing these cameras, I would think the drivers might be a little reluctant. They're feeling a little bit watched. But and when I was working for the police department here in San Antonio, I worked internal affairs for 6 years. And those cameras, the body cams and the vehicle cams, would save the officers so much more than they would get them in trouble. Do you have like any examples of situations like this?
Yeah, I think that really happens a lot. We have one example where a CDL holder, he was he was driving his truck, he got pulled over for using his cell phone, and he said it was a candy bar. And the officer said that's BS, it's not a candy bar. And so he got a ticket, and they're expensive tickets. You have a CDL holder. The video in there proved that it was a candy bar, and the ticket was thrown out. So that's a great example of how that can work for them. And yeah.
What about vehicle accident types of situations where maybe it was a little unclear or could have gone one way or the other?
Oh yeah. There's there's a lot of those examples. We have one that just happened recently where a vehicle stopped in the middle of the highway. There was, I guess, some traffic, some bad weather. They stopped in the pretty short, and the truck driver really had to swerve to move out of the way to avoid hitting him. And I think that's a good example. That just happened probably a week ago.
So what's the save on that for the CDL? I mean, I guess it just puts everything in perspective as to what exactly happened, but there was still an accident.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of times what happens is the owner of the company doesn't really know what happened. Driver says one thing, police report says something else,
right.
And you don't really know. You just have no idea. And so that video really proves it. In this case, whether whoever's fault this is, at least the owner's going to know what happened. It could have been thank God nobody was hit, but it was it's a pretty dramatic situation, and it could have been a disaster for both people involved, both parties. So, this really gives the owner peace of mind because he knows or she knows what happened, and they can kind of move on. And without video evidence, it's really a he said, she said sort of thing, and you're just always worried. We have a great example from a customer or a potential customer who had a vehicle that rear-ended another vehicle and in Austin, and they had no cameras in there yet, and they're being sued for several $1 million because they have no way to prove whose fault this was, and they're having to go through this pain. And this happens all the time. But with video, at least you have something to help your case.
What are we talking about cost-wise here? If you're going to equip a vehicle with just your forward-facing and your driver-type setup, like we talked about, what does that run on average?
So we have different prices, but the rental option is probably the most popular one. And it's $45 a month to rent the camera. No money up front, just the cost of installation, and it includes a lifetime warranty as long as you're paying the fee, and you can return it any time. So it's super easy, and then that's what that one is. Yeah, and then from there they go into different pricing, but.
Are you doing any Lyft or Uber drivers? It seems like that would be something they would want to do.
No, we're not, usually those guys, since they're independent, they probably would take to a camera they can buy off the shelf.
Oh, they get them.
But taxi cab services, anyone who really carries a passenger are great customers. And we do a lot of that. Private ambulance companies are big customers for us. Anytime you have anyone in that vehicle besides the driver, you really open yourself up to liability.
Well, I would think it's anybody who doesn't want to be sued.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have a great example of a hotel over by the airport here in San Antonio that has cameras in there because they take their people from the hotel to the airport, and they have a very short route. But sure enough, there was an incident where a passenger was being unruly, and they were able to prove the case with the video, and so that really helped them out a lot. And they're carrying passengers all day long at any time of the night. So.
All right, Michael, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Go to efficientfleets.com, or you can call us at 888-777-4510, and I'd love to hear from you right away.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Awesome.